In this video, we're going to look at 5 mobility exercises that I recommend that will not only provide instant improvements in your range of motion, but also they're going to help improve muscular imbalances, allowing you to use better posture in your daily habits. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Minus the Gym. And for anyone new, my name's Ryan. I'm a certified personal trainer, and I'm here to help you get in shape at home without relying on a gym. And in this video, we're talking about mobility because mobility is really crucial to your progress in fitness, in any kind of fitness, but especially bodyweight fitness and calisthenics. Mobility is essentially the range of motion that you can move your joints through in any movement. This applies to any joints in your body. And if your mobility is limited, meaning you can't move your joints through the range of motion that you need to do an exercise, you're going to hit a wall in your progress. So it's really crucial in fitness to work on your mobility, but also just in your daily life, because it makes it easier to go through daily life and avoid injuries. Before we dive into the exercises, I need to mention that you should see a noticeable improvement in your range of motion from the beginning of a session to the end of a session. So if you compare how you feel at the end to the beginning, you should notice that your range of motion has a slight improvement. And you should also notice a small improvement from session to session. So if you don't see those benefits, then you're probably doing something wrong. Also, the exercises I chose in this video are specific to help you work through muscular imbalances. The most common, which are caused from too much sitting, whether it's in your car or on the couch or maybe at the computer, and using a computer too much, hunching over a keyboard, and hunching over our cell phones. All this leads to muscular imbalances if we use bad posture. So as you work through these exercises and you feel the benefits, you will also want to make a conscious effort to use better posture in your daily activities. And it will feel so much easier if you work on these mobility exercises. All right, and I'm going to switch to voiceovers as I explain these because it'll just make it a lot easier. All right, and the first exercise I want to show you is called prone scorpion. So what we're going to do is start off in a prone position, lying face down on the floor, arms out to your sides at about 90 degrees bent at the elbow. Starting with the left side, raise the arm up and start pressing off the floor, and simultaneously you want to raise your left leg, crossing it over the right leg behind you. Plant your left foot flat on the floor and then bring the gaze of your eyes to the left leg. Pause briefly here just for a good second or so, and then reverse the movement to return to the starting position. Now repeat the exercise but on the right side. So what we're going to do is raise the right arm and right leg, cross the right leg over, right foot planted on the floor behind your left leg, pause for a second, and then return to the starting position. As you practice this exercise, it'll start to feel more natural to you and you'll just sort of roll from side to side. I recommend doing 10 reps per side in a set and doing at least 2 sets per session. Now, as I return to the starting position here, I want to change the camera angle and point out a few important form cues. First of all, if I pause here, I want to point out that the inside arm, meaning the arm that's still planted on the floor, should be flat on the floor. Your hand, wrist, forearm, and elbow should not come up off the floor. If you do raise it at all, you're going to be cheating and not getting the full benefits of opening the chest and shoulders. And now, as I roll over to the other side for the next rep, I want to point out 2 other really important form cues. And if I pause here, those 2 form cues are, first, the foot of the leg that you swing across. You want that foot to be planted flat on the floor. If you can't plant it right, then chances are you're trying to open up a little too much at the hips. And the third form cue is to make sure you bring your gaze to that leg that crossed over. That'll introduce a really nice rotation of the thoracic and cervical spine. All in all, though, this is a fantastic mobility exercise, and it really opens up the whole anterior. You're opening up the chest and shoulders, opening the hips, and you're working on your spinal mobility with the rotation. So it's fantastic for people who do a lot of sitting and hunching. So make sure you give this one a fair shot. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. I don't see a lot of fitness influencers showing this exercise, which is really surprising, so I wanted to show it on my channel. For exercise number 2, we're going to do the half kneeling hip flexor stretch with arm circles. And I know that's a mouthful, but it'll make sense once you see what's going on here. So from a kneeling position, bring your left leg out in front of you into a lunge. Your right leg is still kneeling on the floor. make sure that left foot is pretty far forward, because what you're going to do is lean forward into it, kind of lunging forward, keeping your torso upright. At this point, you should feel a good stretch in the hip flexors, specifically along the inner right thigh. Now, as you're stretching the hip flexors, you're going to raise the right arm overhead, and that will deepen the stretch of the hip flexors. But rather than just staying in this stretch, what we're going to do is we're going to start doing arm circles to help open up the shoulders and chest. So what you're going to do is, I like starting with backwards. So I'm going to move my arm backwards and then slowly bring it around down and forward and up, making big circles with my arm. So again, what we're doing here is working simultaneously on our hips and shoulders, just like we did in the prone scorpions. Perform 10 slow arm circles per set, doing 2 sets per side. And here I am doing the other side. So now it's right leg forward in the lunge, left knee still resting on the floor. And we're going to raise that left arm overhead this time to deepen the stretch. And as you raise that arm up, make sure you feel a good deep stretch in the hip flexors before you start doing the arm circles. And I want to point out that as you're doing the arm circles, if you feel any sort of crunching or popping or anything like that, that's okay as long as there's no pain. You can work through that and you should feel it improve over time. However, if you feel any catching, like something's getting caught in there, you'll want to sort of pause on these arm circles and work more on your flexibility for chest and shoulders, trying to open those up more. And for exercise number 3, we're going to be doing tables. And this is a really good one because people who sit a lot spend a lot of time in hip flexion. And in this exercise, we're going to be working on extension. So get into this sitting position with your knees bent at about 90 degrees and your hands resting on the floor behind you, fingers pointed directly backwards. And what we're going to do from here is we're going to press down with our glutes, driving our heels into the floor. And that's going to help us lift our butt up so we come into this position where our torso and thighs are parallel to the floor. Concentrate on opening the chest as you press backwards into the floor, and then lower back down till your butt is resting back on the floor. That's 1 rep. And then you're just going to repeat this for reps, coming up into the table position, holding for a second, and returning to the starting position. Again, I recommend 10 reps per set and 2 sets per session or more. Now, some people with really tight hips will not be able to get up into the full table position. And if that's you, that's totally fine. Don't worry about it. There is a progression you can use to ease into it. And that's by doing straight bridges like this. Simply do the same thing as tables, except you're not bent at the knees. You're keeping the legs straight. Doing this will shift more load to the upper back and shoulders, so be aware of that. But it reduces the amount of hip extension required, making it a great lead up for tables. Exercise number 4 is chin tucks. Now this is technically a strengthening or postural exercise, not really mobility, but whatever, I thought I'd include it because it's important for forward head posture. So stand against a wall. Your upper back, butt, and heels should be resting against the wall. And what you're going to do here is a very subtle movement. You're going to draw your chin back towards the wall. Simultaneously, you want to extend the cervical spine, meaning you're trying to raise your head kind of up and make your neck tall. You're essentially trying to give yourself a double chin with each rep. I recommend 10 to 20 reps per set and 2 sets per session minimally. And what this does is strengthen the upper flexors and lower extensors of the neck, helping you return to good head posture. And here I'm exaggerating the forward head posture at the beginning so you can really see what this movement looks like, because I know it's pretty subtle. But again, you're just tucking the chin towards the wall and trying to make your neck tall with every rep. And for exercise number 5, we are again going to have our back to the wall for scapular wall presses. So stand with your back to the wall. Your head, upper back, and butt should be resting against the wall. However, this time we're going to bring our feet a good 6 or 8 inches away from the wall. Then we're going to raise our arms up so our elbows and triceps are against the wall, and we're going to drive our arms backwards, bringing our head and upper back away from the wall, and then returning to the starting position. This exercise stretches the chest while simultaneously strengthening the external rotators and other muscles of the upper back, which is especially beneficial for people who work at a desk and type at a keyboard, right? Because that really is what produces rounded forward shoulders, a lot of that reaching forward. Maybe you drive a lot too for your job, driving in a car or a truck. So this is a great one. I recommend doing it daily, actually, if you have a desk job. Again, 10 to 20 reps in a set for this one, and at least 2 sets per session. Okay, I know that was a lot of information, but I hope it was helpful for you. I hope you try those exercises and you feel those benefits immediately after. Remember, you should. You should notice that your range of motion is better right after the session, and from session to session, you should have small improvements. So over time, it's very gradual, but you'll see improvements in your range of motion. And remember that as you work on these, you're also going to correct those muscular imbalances if you do too much sitting and hunching and slouching. And with those corrected muscular imbalances, you should feel that it's much easier to use good posture when you're doing those daily activities, like using a computer, looking at your cell phone, or whatever it might be, driving in a car. And just remember to keep those shoulders kind of tucked back, right? You don't want to round your shoulders forward. You want to tuck them down and back. Chin should be tucked, chest proud, and you want to keep your hips neutral. This requires the glutes and the abs to be very gently contracted. A lot of people have anterior pelvic tilt, so they're kind of sticking their butt out and their stomach out. You don't want that. You want to have a neutral pelvis. That's actually the ideal way to stand. And just remember that if you do have poor posture, which a lot of us do, including myself, I'm still working through some issues, you need to make a conscious effort, meaning you need to think of it. You need to remind yourself consciously to, activate those cues as you're doing your daily activities, and eventually it does become habit, it becomes second nature, so you will naturally use better posture. Thanks so much for watching, I really appreciate it, and if you found the video helpful, please hit that like button because that helps me out in return. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new and you want to learn more from me. I upload just about every week, and for my dedicated viewers, I want to mention I did miss an upload last week, and I apologize for that. Long story short, my wife is a nurse. She works in a hospital. She was exposed to COVID. We thought we all might have caught it, but turns out we're negative. Everything's fine, so all's well. But I do my best to upload every week, all right? So stay tuned if you want to learn more, and I'll see you then.